Okay, hello. This is my interview with Rona Renner, who is also my grandmother. It happens to be. So, Rona, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'm the grandmother of David Bray. That's number one. And I have four other grandchildren too, and four children. And I've been a nurse for about 56 years.
Hmm.
And I wrote a book called Is That Me Yelling? Because I had to learn not to yell. And I have been a radio host for I don't know, probably over 20, 25 years. I've done different radio programs, and I have a wonderful husband named Nick.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, so we can get into some more specific questions. So, when you're hosting on the radio, could you outline what your hosting style is or how you go about that?
Yeah, I did a show for 10 years called
Hmm.
Childhood Matters, and that was where I actually got paid to do radio,
Hmm.
and I had a whole staff. And it was wonderful because I didn't have to work too hard at getting the guests and producing the show. But that show was more produced. What I
Hmm.
mean by that is there were segments. So we would have someone go out and interview people. We called it Person on the Street. And I'd have a topic
Hmm.
and I'd have a guest and I'd start interviewing my guest and having a conversation. And then there would be some music and then we'd bring in the person on the street. And it
Hmm.
would be like a 2-minute segment of voices of parents talking about, say, putting their kids to sleep or how not to use harsh discipline. And then the interview was wonderful because I had an expert, but I was also very knowledgeable in parenting. That was my specialty
Hmm.
as a nurse. And then we would take calls. So, what
Okay.
I loved about that style was that we had an idea where we were going, but we opened up the phone lines, and people like that because there's not that much talk radio anymore.
Yeah, definitely. I think the whole art of radio has lost some of its appeal in pop culture as of now. But thank you for that. And I'd say just like this is a little bit quicker. How do you avoid restating yourself and keep what you're saying interesting throughout the hour so that you're on the air each week?
Well, because I have guests and because I'm taking callers, it keeps it interesting. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that I always prepare. So
Mm-hmm.
I have my outline.
Yeah.
I have a way that I introduce the show, and then I have key points so that I don't have to fumble and try and fill airtime at all.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Another quick question similar to that. If an interview is running too long or you weren't getting enough out of a guest, how would you kind of either solve for too long or too short?
Well, it's interesting that, I had my guest on for the whole hour, so it's a
Hmm.
different kind of radio. And I do that now on a station where I talk about health. So I
Hmm.
do have the guests for the whole hour, but I've learned over the years how to cut off the callers.
Oh,
So
because
that's the
they like
harder
to
part.
ramble a little bit.
What?
They like to ramble a little bit.
Absolutely. And sometimes I let them ramble too long and I could feel it in my gut. But what I've learned to do is to be actually polite, but
Hmm.
say something like, thank you. That's really important, but we actually have to take other calls or we have to move on. So I do try and cut people off if it feels like it's not interesting anymore.
But you're pretty straightforward with that. You weren't trying to navigate around. You tell them we got other stuff we got to do.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Awesome.
That's
Cool.
right. And
And
David, I never wanted to do radio.
yeah, yeah. Maybe on that topic, maybe tell us a little bit about how you got into radio.
Right, I was a nurse and doing parent education, and I was teaching a class, and a father stood up in the back of the room at the end of the class, and he raised his hand and he said, "Now I know why I shouldn't hurt my child anymore."
Hmm.
And I had a moment, and you're going to think I'm a little woo-woo to say this,
Okay.
but I had a moment when an angel tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You have to find a way for people to hear that man," because he was so authentic, he was so
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
And so it took me about 8 years, and I finally figured out that what I needed to do was have a radio show. It's
Okay.
not easy to have your own radio show, right?
That's true. I mean, we do it over here at KSPB Pebble Beach, but
It's not easy.
yeah.
But I found a person, Peter B. Collins, who was a radio personality, he helped me. We started a nonprofit, and we actually raised the money
That's
to
awesome.
pay a very well-known station, Kiss FM in the Bay Area. And we started out by paying for the hour, and we got funders to give us the money to pay for the show.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
And how, remind me, how long did that first show you were doing last?
almost 10 years.
And how did that come to an end? Like what was were you just kind of done with it at that point?
We ran out of money.
Really?
It was like around 2008 when I don't know if you know about this, but you might have learned about how everything went bust in terms of the economy, and a lot of the funders who were giving us money, like United Way and Kaiser and other places, had to prioritize where they gave money to. And so we couldn't be on the air. And I thought I was done with radio.
Yeah.
But then someone asked me to host a show where I volunteer. I don't get paid anymore. But
Yeah.
once you do radio, David, you know this probably.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun, right?
Yeah. Once you get in the groove of it, it's hard to let go.
It's hard to let go. And so I never thought I would be a radio host, but it's a good responsibility.
And when did you pick up your second show that you're doing now?
So that was about 7 years ago.
Okay, so you took like a 5 to 6 year hiatus, and then
I took a hiatus. I wrote my book. I did other work, and then I got asked to host this show. And again, it's a call-in show. It's about health. And I think as a nurse, I realized that with radio, you reach thousands of people.
Definitely.
They don't have to go to a class. They don't have to pay for it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But nowadays, everyone has podcasts, so things are changing, right?
Yeah. I think there's definitely some overlap with radio and podcast. Speaking about your book, can you tell me a little bit about that process, the publishing process, that kind of thing?
Well, I had an idea for this book. I wanted to do something that would help parents be less reactive to their kids, because I had been too reactive at times in my parenting.
Okay.
And I came up with the great title, Is That Me Yelling? And I wanted it to not make parents feel bad, but to help them learn to be more observant of what they did. So I wrote a chapter, I wrote an outline, and I brought it to a publisher, New Harbinger Publications. And, usually you get a lot of rejections, but they just accepted it.
That's awesome.
I think it was really wonderful because the title was so cool. And I did have a coach help me. So in the beginning, I was really nervous about writing a book because I have learning disabilities. I have a little dyslexia. And I got a coach. So I really say to people, get help when you're working on something and you want to do it. Reach out to find people who will help you. That process is really important in any creative work, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. And can you tell me a little bit about, I know that you're pretty popular overseas. Can you tell me a little bit about how that came to fruition, how those translations came about, and how that's going?
Yeah, so I wrote my book, and it was popular in the United States for a while, but in the United States there's so many parenting books. Yeah. So you have to really do a lot of marketing and a lot of pushing out there. And I was getting older, and I wasn't doing all of the book tours that you should do and things like that. So my book got translated into 5 languages, and Korean, Chinese, French, Dutch, and one other that I can't remember.
Spanish, maybe?
Italian. And I just thought it's wonderful. I mean, it's so exciting to see that. And then all of a sudden, one day, I got a really big check. Royalties in China, and I called them up and I said, is this a mistake? Why are you giving me all this money? And they said that it was picked up in a parents' book club in China. So all of a sudden, all these parents were reading my book. Interesting. It's just like you never know. That's the thing about the work you do, whether it's radio or books. You put out what you know, and you never know where it's going to land. Yeah. I just want to tell you, one time I did a show where on radio where I said, it's never too late to connect with your child if you haven't been in connection with them, an adult child. And this man heard it, and he connected with his daughter after 20 years.
Wow.
And he found me to thank me. And he said it was hearing those words on the radio. So it can be very powerful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
And then can you also tell me a little bit about your pre-radio days? I know you're a nurse, and can you tell me how you became a nurse and kind of what that entailed for you, where you worked, that kind of thing?
Right. So I was very young. I went to a special program that after 2 years, I became an RN. So at 18, I was a nurse, which
Yeah.
was crazy because I was a little baby, but there I was working at Montefiore Hospital in New York. And I just thought nursing was right for me because of my learning challenges. I
Yeah.
wasn't a real academic, but
Hmm.
I love helping people and being with them and supporting them. And that's where I met your grandpa, actually,
Yeah.
at Montefiore Hospital.
Yeah.
And I just did all kinds of nursing. I loved learning, and
Hmm.
I wound up doing a lot of pediatrics.
Okay.
And I
Interesting.
did kind of everything under the sun. Nursing is a great career that way because you don't have to stay in one place. But it turned out that pediatrics was where I really flourished. And that's where I learned to be a parent educator,
Okay.
helping parents learn how to take good care of their kiddos.
So when you were working as a nurse, you were primarily helping with parenting and stuff, or were you doing the usual nurse responsibilities?
Right. I did, ICU and CCU nursing. I did alcoholic care unit. I did postpartum. I sort of did everything. And then all of a sudden, it's never, it's like I was in my 50s, I think, and I
Yeah.
suddenly kind of found my thing.
Interesting.
And
Well,
so again, the message I like to give people is don't think that there's like one career for you.
yeah.
You
Okay.
keep building skills and learning, and you never know where it's going to go. It's
That's true.
pretty amazing. I can't wait to see where it goes for you, David.
Yeah. Okay. So to wrap up the interview really quick, can you tell me where you are right now in life and how you're feeling and what the future might hold for you?
So I live in Berkeley, California,
Hmm.
and I am mostly retired. I volunteer as a radio show host on
Hmm.
a show called About Health.
Nice.
People can listen at nurserona.com. That's my website.
Okay.
I have a few clients that I still work with on temperament counseling. That's
Nice.
helping parents understand their child's behavior style.
Hmm.
And I'm resting more. I've been working since I'm 18,
Yeah.
and I'm in my 70s now, and I'm taking it easy more and
Nice.
reading, though, and staying up to date on what's going on in the health field,
Nice.
because our healthcare system is not really good in this country, and we need
Yeah.
some kind of universal health system. And so I try and keep up with the politics around it. And
Mhm.
COVID's been so challenging
Yeah, for
to
sure.
see what's happened to the health of our people in our country and around the world. So there's a lot to put my focus on, my brain on, and I'm just
Yeah.
happy to be alive.
But that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Glad you're taking it step by step.
And if you ever
Awesome.
need someone on your radio show that you do, let me know. I'll come on.
Okay. Okay. I will. I'll shoot you a text then. Well, awesome. Rona Renner, thank you for the quick interview. I appreciate all the knowledge you have to share, and catch you on the flip side.